Alright, we're going to look at a couple more examples of metric to English where they get a little more complicated. If we use our equivalences, our relationships between metric and English, you're going to find these written a lot of different ways. You always want to make sure that there are at least 3 sig figs in these equivalences, but you might find some that are different than these, and that's okay. But if I've got these 3, if I've got an equivalence between metric and English mass, between metric and English length, between metric and English volume, then I'm set. I can find any relationship between metric and English from those by knowing what my prefixes are, how the prefixes work with the metric units, and by knowing what my English equivalences are. For example, let's look at the problem where we want to convert 21,000 meters. We want to convert that to miles. If I want to convert between meters and miles, meters is my metric, miles is my English. If I look at these equivalences for length, I have meters and feet, but I want to go to miles. So I can use this equivalence, but it's going to take more than one step. I'm going to set it up just like we've been talking about. Question mark with the unit I'm trying to find. Miles is abbreviated MI. You don't just abbreviate it with an M, because M is just meters. So how many miles equals 21,000 meters times, and my ratio sign. The unit of meters has to go on bottom. I'd always put my units before I put my numbers. I'd like to put miles on top, but I can only do that if I have an equivalence between meters and miles. And I don't. I have an equivalence between meters and feet, so for meters, I'll go to feet. I have no other place to go except for here. I'll put my numbers for my equivalence. 1 meter equals 3.281 feet, and my meters unit cancels. I'll need another step because I'll have to have the feet cancel. The feet goes on bottom so that it cancels. Remember that ultimately we're trying to get to miles, so if I know how many feet are in a mile, if I know the relationship between feet and miles, now I can put miles on top. Remember that in order to put these in a ratio, I have to know the numbers that make them equal. And at some point in your life, you probably learned that 1 mile is 5,280 feet. If you did not know that off the top of your head, you're going to look it up. My unit of feet cancels, and I'm ready to solve this problem. Punching into my calculator, 21,000 times 3.281 divided by, because it's in the bottom, 5,280 equals. My calculator is going to display the answer to fill up the screen. I'm just going to stop writing digits, so it'll display 13.049 and some other digits before rounding, but I will round it to the appropriate number of sig figs. If I look at this first number, it has only 2 sig figs. There is no decimal point explicitly written here, even though it would come right here, so these 3 zeros are placeholders. My conversion factor has 4 sig figs, and my conversion between the English miles and the English feet is exact. Any conversions within the same measuring system are exact. And so I'm going to round my answer to 2 sig figs based on this first value, and so my answer will be 13 miles. Alright, let's set up a second problem. Let's convert 1.3 times 10 to the 8th ounces. Ounces is abbreviated OZ. Let's convert that into megaliters. The capital M is the mega prefix. Liters is the unit of volume. So I want to come down here and look for my conversion for volume between English and metric. I'm trying to go from ounces to megaliters, so I'll start this problem exactly the way we've been starting all of them. The question mark goes with the megaliters equals 1.3 times 10 to the 8th ounces. That's exactly how I'll start the problem based on what's given. I'll write times in my ratio sign, and my ounces will go on bottom so that it cancels. Now from here, I have a couple of different paths I can follow. I might go between ounces and quarts directly if I know that off the top of my head, or I might want to go between ounces and pints and then go from pints to quarts. There are a variety of ways of doing this, and none of them are wrong as long as you're using the proper equivalences. I'm going to use the equivalence that 1 quart is equal to 32 ounces. Again, you might use that 1 pint equals 16 ounces, or 1 cup equals 8 ounces, and eventually you would work your way to quarts from those equivalences. I'll use the equivalence between quarts and ounces, and if I don't know that off the top of my head, I'm going to go look it up. So I have 1 quart over 32 ounces, and my ounces unit cancels. Now that I have quarts, my next equivalence will need times in my ratio sign, and my quarts on bottom so that it cancels, units, units, units. And now I'll put my liters on top, because that's what I have the equivalence for. Between quarts and liters, I have 1 quart equals 0.946 liters, and my unit of quart cancels. Remember, we're going to megaliters, so I still need another step, times in my ratio sign. My liters is on bottom, and now I can put my megaliters on top, because I know I can convert between a base unit and the unit with a prefix using that prefix table. If I go look at my prefix table, the prefix mega means 10 to the 6th. That's how many of the base unit are equal to 1 with the prefix. My unit of liters cancels, and I'm left with punching this into my calculator. I'll punch in 1.3 exp8 divided by 32 because it's on bottom, times 0.946 because it's on top, divided by 1 exp6 on bottom. My calculator will display the answer. I'll end up having to round it, but this is something like my calculator displays, and so I will round that answer. If we look at our sig figs over here, my original number has 2 sig figs. This one is exact. This one has 3 sig figs. This one is exact. And so I will round my answer to 3.8 megaliters.